NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play.
What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest and your not so great of a start Brooklyn Nets news. All right, so let's dive right in. Let's talk about the clear disappointment that has been the start of this Nets season. What a surprise. It's been 5 games since the season started. I was going to try to do a video a couple days earlier, but, you know, blah, 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 NetsBoy busy. You all know the story. So I just kind of didn't have a chance to get it done until now, which is currently October 28th, so right after the Miami Heat game, or the day after, is this video for those who are looking at it. And so the Nets are 2-3 with just terrible losses. I mean, the Bucks loss I predicted, and it was exactly what I thought would happen. The Nets, they didn't come with nearly the same amount of energy that the Bucks did. The Bucks are a team that was getting their championship rings. They were excited. You know, despite a few other players on the team, they're basically the same team. The Nets have all these new guys. The Nets really just didn't seem like they really wanted to play or play that hard in that game. And I called that, so I was not shocked. But now, the Hornets loss and the Heat loss are just really, really disappointing. Look, the Hornets, that game was worse. I mean, losing to the Heat was very disappointing. Especially since the Heat out-rebounded the Nets, like, I think 62-42, which we're going to touch upon in a second. But that Hornets game, I mean, the Nets were up by, I believe, 10 at one point, and they just fell apart in the second half. And it just seems like this Nets team just doesn't care. And this is like what happened last year. Like, it's a new season with the same old crap with this team. They can't get any damn rebounds, and they let a bunch of offensive rebounds and second chance points. They're still a mediocre defensive team, though they're better than what they were last year, and they still play with lackluster energy on a night in and night out basis like they really don't care. That they think they're just going to show up and win games. And when teams outplay them, like the Hornets did, it's clear that they just don't seem to care. They don't. And, you know, and then they try to, like the Hornets loss was a clear example of the Nets. Once they had that 10-point lead in the second, they thought they were going to run away with it. And this Hornets team is not as bad as they've been in the past. They got some really good young players. They battled back and almost like caught the Nets off guard. Like wait, what? You still got to play basketball for another 24 minutes? Like, that's literally what it seemed like. And, you know, the Hornets came back and not only won that game, they ultimately blown out the Nets at the end because once again, it seems like despite Steve Nash being this great offensive-minded player, it really seems like this flow of this offense just doesn't exist. And it's still, when it comes down to crunch time, is give the ball to Kevin Durant and see what happens. Give the ball to James Harden and see what happens. Like, come on. You got to be more innovative than that. And, like, I can't believe it, but, like, one of the biggest weaknesses of this team right now is the offense. And you never would have imagined that with a Steve Nash coach team and players like James Harden and Kevin Durant on the team and Joe Harris and Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. These players and the offense is what's really hurting them because, yes, this team still unbelievably struggles to get rebounds. It's kind of mind-boggling how much it once again seems like no one on this team can get a damn rebound, which once again is all about effort. Like, rebounding is effort, okay? When I used to play basketball at my 5'3" frame, because that's how tall I am. I'm 5'3". Yes, I'm short. But I used to play basketball all the time, whether it was rec leagues, intramural leagues, you know, all that stuff. And when I wanted to get a rebound, I was able to get a rebound. Now, granted, the skill level is different. I understand. I don't want anyone going to do like, that's boy, you're comparing rec league with the pros. No, I'm not. I'm just saying at 5'3", when I was playing against guys that were 5'10", 6 foot sometimes, 6'2", 6'3", I was able to at least have a better effort in getting a rebound when I really wanted to. I didn't always want to because it exerted a lot of energy. Being as short as I was, I had to get really physical, and I had to box out, and I had to go up there and use what I used to have, which was athleticism, which I certainly don't anymore, but I used to actually have pretty good athleticism, to go and get the board. But I was able to, or at least had a chance to, because I wanted to. Rebounding is all about desire, about wanting the damn ball more than anyone else. Just ask Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman said it made it his mission that when the ball was coming off that rim, that he was going to get it. Not his teammates, not the other team, no one else, him. And the Nets need that philosophy. Everyone on the Nets team needs to say, I need to get that ball. And look, some rebounding skill is just pure instinct, and not everyone's going to have it. But I'll tell you this right now. There's no reason that players on the Nets team, like Paul Millsap, like Blake Griffin, like Joe Harris, like Bruce Brown, like Kevin Durant, do not get at least 8 to 10 rebounds a game because it's all about desire. Nicholas Claxton, like, you got to go for the ball. And it's clear they don't want to. And it was clear in that Heat loss. Out-rebounded, 62 to 42. Are you kidding me? 17 second chance points to, I think, like 6 to the Nets. It's crazy. So that's obviously the biggest flaw that I see with this Nets team, all right? Which is clear as day. But the other issue, like I said earlier, is this offense. Because the reality is that this Nets team was supposed to fall back on its offense. When things aren't going well, when they're not rebounding the ball, when they're not playing good defense, this team was supposed to say, well, you know what? We're going to score 120 points anyway and blow you out. Even without Kyrie Irving, that was what the Nets were going to hang their hat on. And we just simply haven't seen it yet this year. Kevin Durant doing his thing, averaging in the high 20s, being very efficient like he always is. It's the other guys. Joe Harris, been very mediocre so far. Though we do need to congratulate him for becoming the all-time three-point shooter in Nets history. Good job, Joe. But he has not really shown the consistency that he's done in the past. Players like LaMarcus Aldridge had that one great game against the Wizards. Not the Wizards, the 76ers. Sorry, their other win. The 76ers game, he had the 24 points. But then other than that, we haven't seen anything from him. Patty Mills has had some great, great moments, and then he's had a game like against the Heat where I don't think he had like more than 4 points. So we're seeing the inconsistency from him. Other players that were supposed to score, Blake Griffin, non-existent. Paul Millsap, non-existent. And these are the players that the Nets need to count on. But there's one player in particular that has been a massive, massive, massive disappointment so far. And that is that piece of crap, James, the three-step, useless because he's not getting any foul calls, Harden. James Harden. I'm not going to single-handedly blame him because, like I said, there's loads of reasons why this Nets team is 2-3 to start the season. But this guy's supposed to be one of the best offensive players in the league. This guy's supposed to be an MVP candidate. This guy is supposed to be, on this team right now, the second star to Kevin Durant. And he is averaging 17 points a game, 8 assists, which is good, 7 rebounds, which is good, but is shooting 38%, and has over 4 turnovers a game, and is shooting sub 35% from 3. This guy who is like a career 25-point scorer is averaging 17 points and shooting 38%. This guy who's supposed to be the Nets' second best player, he's supposed to be the second lead scorer, is shooting under 35% from 3, over 4 turnovers a game. He has been useless. He's just good at passing the ball right now and occasionally scoring. You know who he is? He's Jason Kidd. He's Jason Kidd right now. I know about NetsBoy. Jason Kidd's one of the greatest all-time Nets of all time. Listen, I'll tell you this right now. Watching Jason Kidd, as much as I watch Jason Kidd, He was a very good player, one of the best point guards, pure point guards in the league. He was also one of the most overrated players ever. I'm saying it. I don't care. It's not blasphemy. I'm sorry. I'm a Nets fan, and I am the first one to tell you, watching Jason Kidd night in and night out, he was extremely overrated. Still an all-star caliber point guard, still a Hall of Fame point guard, still one of the best players in Nets history. I'm not disputing that, but he was overrated. He was a guy who was a great passer, had great court vision, and was a very good defensive player. But his offensive game was limited, and those triple-doubles were extremely overrated because it got to a point where the whole team just kind of like deferred to him. When the ball went up, they all dispersed. They let Jason Kidd get that rebound. He always had like 12 points, 10 assists, 10 rebound triple-doubles. Like, that's who he was. You look at his stats, you would see that Jason Kidd's numbers were not outlandish. He was just good at maximizing players around him ability, and he did make other players around him better. And so does James Harden. He's a good playmaker. He makes the right passes, but he also, though, forces too many of them, which is something Jason Kidd did not do. And he's also not nearly as good as a defensive player, if, like, not at all. Like, I'm sorry, James, take a charge. Don't just step back and push him. Did anybody see that? When he tried to take a charge, he just stepped back and pushed the guy. He is still one of the laziest defensive players I have ever seen. He's just simply one of the laziest players I have ever seen. He's not engaged. He just tries to do too many stupid things. And I've talked about this before. He has the ability to get to the basket at will, yet he doesn't want to do it for whatever reason. Oh, NetsBoy, it's because he's not getting those foul calls anymore. No, it's not. It's because he doesn't want to. He'd rather dribble between his legs, dribble, step back, stupid contested three, instead of go to the basket. And that's the other thing. I will say this. The rule change with the fouls is impacting him. There's no way it's not. The guy used to average 8 free throws a game, and now he only has average, I think 1 a game, not even. I think he has 5 or 6 total free throws in the first 5 games of the season. So he's not getting those calls. And you want to know something? It's exploiting the true nature that is James Harden, which is that he has always been extremely overrated. He is one of those players that relies on getting fouled and going to the line for a lot of his points. Doesn't mean he's not capable of scoring 20 without getting fouled, because he's still a lethal three-point shooter when he's in rhythm and when he can, and he still has the ability to finish around the basket and hit that floater better than most players. But he doesn't choose to do that as much as he takes the dumb shots, 3 shots. And he also seems like when he goes to the basket, he's trying to draw the foul more than trying to put the ball in the basket. And that is his biggest mistake. And until he starts going to the basket with the intent of actually scoring instead of the intent of trying to draw the foul like he has done the last 8 years of his career, he will continue to be nothing more than just a solid to good point guard for this Nets team. So this is my call to James Harden. Try to score. Stop trying to draw fouls. Stop trying to do isolation step backs. Go to the basket and attempt to finish. And care. Care on the boards. Care on defense. Don't just stand there while someone's putting the ball back 3 or 4 times. Go for the rebound. Be a superstar. Oh, but NetsBoy, he's out of shape. He came from that hamstring injury. I don't want to hear that crap. The Nets are paying this guy $40 million almost. They don't have Kyrie right now. This guy needs to step up and be the player that the Nets thought he was. The player he was when they first acquired him before the hamstring injury. He was great last year with the Nets. He was a borderline MVP candidate. Now you're trying to tell me because he's not getting his foul calls, he's a mediocre version of Jason Kidd? What kind of superstar is that? Step up, learn, go to the basket, finish, attempt to score. Don't try to do all these isolation plays. Don't force these passes. When a center is rolling to the basket, throw the ball in the air. Don't do crazy bounce passes. Centers can't grab the ball that way. That's basketball 1-on-1. Tip the ball up and care on defense. If James Harden played like he did last year for the Nets, it would be a wrap. The Nets team would be 4-1 like they should be. But he has not even come close to playing like the way he should be playing with this Nets team. And that, with the lack of the ability to grab any rebounds and the inconsistency from the role players and the fact that Steve Nash still has no idea what he's doing with his rotation, which is fine. A lot of new players. I get it. He's still got to figure it out. All that is being compacted by the fact that James Harden is a shell of what he once was last season. And James Harden needs to get it together and needs to figure it out, or else this Nets team will be lucky to be a top 4 seed. And heck, they may only win like 45 games if James Harden doesn't turn it around. They might even be worse than that, because this Nets team was built to have at least 2 superstars and a bunch of good role players. Not one superstar and a bunch of role players. That team is not going to win a championship. That team probably won't even make it out of the second round at best. So it's up to James Harden at this point to figure it out. And I hope that in about a week or two, James Harden will shove these words in my face, just like he did when I went off about the Nets trading for him last season. He shoved the words in my face, which was great. I don't have a problem with that. I never have a problem with being wrong when it helps because the Nets were winning games. But when I'm right, I'm just going to sit here and say, that damn James Harden's costing this Nets everything. But we'll see what happens. So now let's look at the next couple games for the Nets. They've got tons of winnable games. Starting with the Pacers Friday night. Nets got to win that one. They've got to bounce back with everything going on. They've got to win that game. Then they got the Pistons, one of the worst, if not the worst team in the East. They've got to win that game. Then they got the Hawks. Hawks was a very good team this year. They were last year. That's going to be a tough game. But I'm hoping the Nets, at this point, have figured out how to be more consistent. They should win that game. And then they got the Pistons again. So the Nets really should win the next 4 games and immediately turn this season around and be 6-3, and we will forget about the terrible start to this season. Because then they've got the Raptors after that, a team that is in a bit of a rebuild as well. And then they have the Bulls, who are currently undefeated, but who knows. And then the Magic, and then the Pelicans, and then the Thunder. I mean, come on. Of all these games coming up, they only have 2 opponents that are quote-unquote playoff-worthy or dangerous teams, the Hawks and the Bulls. The rest of these team games, the Nets should walk all over them. Like, there's no reason this Nets team doesn't go 8-2 the next 10 games. Minimum. We'll see. I don't know what to believe with this team right now. All I know is James Harden's got to get together, the team's got to get some damn rebounds, and they got to fix these problems, and they got to start caring more and start realizing that they're not just going to walk to a championship. Stupid Nets. Anyway, let me know what you guys all think about everything, the first 5 games of the season. If you agree with me that despite all the flaws, that James Harden is the catalyst right now and the biggest reason why this team is not doing great, and he's also the key to help this team turn around and become the team that they think the Nets should be. Let me know what you guys think about everything. And until then, this is NetsBoy. Probably another week or so. The next NetsBoy episode will be, we'll see. Till then, NetsBoy shaking his head and signing off.